everyone. Today we have a very special guest with us, Ed Latimore, a professional boxer turned author, the man who likes his coffee only black, the man who advocates sobriety, but you will see him making jokes on crack now and then, an over the board chess player, and the real life Morpheus who took the red pill. Welcome, Ed. So glad to have you here. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, no problem. It was one of the best introductions of me that anyone's ever done. I'm a big fan of that. I'm gonna start saying I'm the real life Morpheus who took the red pill.
Okay. So in this podcast, we will be talking about Ed's story, his humble beginnings, how the boxing happened, and his alcohol addictions, how he overcame it, and him taking the road less traveled, that is, taking the red pill, and about his journey turning as an author. So, Ed, shall we start?
Yes.
Great. I have been following you on Twitter for almost a year now, and I love the way you engage with your audience, and I like your tweets. But sitting on Zoom here and talking to you, listening to your story is going to be a very different experience for me. You started with humble beginnings. You grew up in housing projects, public housing projects, and you were raised primarily by your mother. So I want to know, how did growing up in housing projects felt like? Like, what important life lessons did you learn there?
The main one, that I don't think a lot of people think about when they ask this or when they try and dissect what I'm thinking. The main one is I learned about really good manners. Good manners, it's a basic thing, but it carries you far. It keeps you out of trouble. It disarms people. It allows you to communicate your ideas clearly without resistance, or rather without more resistance than you normally would. As I always say, good manners don't make any situation worse. So
Okay.
that's the biggest one. And I don't think a lot of people think about that when I try to talk about, or when I write about uh, valuable lessons I took from my growing up, because it doesn't seem like that kind of thing, but it's very important. I always think about it.
So, if you get to visit one of these housing projects and you meet a kid who is, say, a younger version of yourself, what would you say to that kid?
You know that that's a good question. I'd probably tell them that um, anything worth having or doing is going to take some time, a little suffering, little sacrifice, and you can't give in to instant gratification. I've seen a lot of instant gratification, and not just in some of the more obvious ways, but why does someone commit an act of violence against someone in the heat of the moment? Well, they, rather than take the disciplined approach to their emotions, they give in to them. They give in right at the moment instead of trying to work through it, have some control, talk through it. Same reason why people end up, selling drugs, doing illegal things, because it's fast. It's fast money, but it's quick, and it doesn't it doesn't require initially. There's not a barrier of entry. It doesn't. It's not something you have to, a person you have to develop to do that. And so it's very alluring to someone in that situation. And so what I would tell them is, don't give in to anything quick. Make sure that you work for it. Make sure you push yourself. That's how you're gonna end up making a difference. That's how you're gonna end up changing your life. You know.
Hmm. I mean, that's great because a lot of younger generation, they require our guidance. I mean, whatever we have learned, we need to pass it on. So I love that, you're doing that in a way through your Twitter and through your books. So thank you so much, man. I mean, sharing your wisdom that you learned through your experiences.
Oh, no problem. That's the value of experience. I believe is you yourself grow and develop and get to put something out there in the world. And then if you dissect the lessons, you extract them the right way, reflect on them, and then put them back out there, you can help someone else get through a difficult time or a challenging situation far easier than they would otherwise.
Hmm. So when you were younger, you were sort of anti higher education, and but you enrolled yourself in BA Physics. So what made you enroll in BA Physics?
Um, it wasn't the plan initially to study physics. The plan was to study math, and the original plan for that is at some point I realized that I needed to have a way to make more money than I was making. I wasn't making a lot of money. I had a very um, I just didn't have a skill set whatsoever. So I figured that college was going to be the way to go, and I looked at all the like jobs and what the average income was, and I said, okay, they all seem to have math, all the ones that pay well, so I'll just major in math. And along the way, I got exposed to some engineering concepts, and I said, okay, that's what I want to study. And then studying for that, you go take physics and chemistry and calculus. I said, wait a second. What I really want to do is study this when I took my physics class. So that's kind of how that happened. And as much as I was railing against it, I mean, the against higher education when I was younger, that doesn't change how I felt about it when I went back later. What would change that, I'd gone through it, and I have the experience and the education, and I can see that yes, there are a lot of benefits, quite a lot. I think that my degree absolutely changed how I think and see the world, and gives me just a whole different dimension to my experience that I would not have otherwise. I don't think it was worth what it cost though. And it's a good degree. I just don't think it was worth what it cost.
Do you plan to do higher studies after that? I mean, after you've completed your BA in physics?
I've been thinking about it, and it'll realistically depend on kind of what happens in the next 2 years. I've got some other plans that I am really interested in pursuing that are going to take a lot of time, and as if those are wildly successful, then I'll probably step back and go do that. Or even if they're not, I mean, I really there are some things I want to study. I'm really interested in weather and climate science and things of that nature, atmospheric science, climate studies, oceanography. All of that stuff is really fascinating to me. But will I go and study it formally? Who knows? I mean, probably not in America, man. That for sure. I mean, unless I have like an abundance of money. College is just too expensive here. It's insane what they charge even for master's higher level programs. So who knows? Maybe hey, if someone paid for it too, there's that. You never know. But right now the the plan for that is tentatively depending on everything else that I do.
So I read in one of your blogs that you didn't quite enjoy being in school. So I mean, why didn't you think giving up was not an option? I mean, quitting the school was not an option.
Because that's how I am. You enter a domain that's going to transform you. You invest so much into it, and you want to get the return. And for me, there's no halfway. Either you have the degree or there isn't. There's not. I have 100 some credits. No one cares about that. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm here. Got to finish it. Got to do it. And so I did. And even if and there were times I wanted to stop, but it wasn't because it was too difficult. That never entered my mind. It was like I was worried that I might not have enough money to get through it. Was worried, and then I started making money online, and then that was a different thing. I was like, oh, why am I still here? There were just new competing interests and fears, but one of the things that never entered my mind was whether I'd be able to complete it or not. I always figured that would was a foregone conclusion, the completion. As long as I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, eventually I get it done, and I did. But there was no way I can't conceive of just giving up on something, especially something you put so much time and energy into.
So now that you've completed your BA in physics, would you recommend younger people to take up higher education, or like, do you still hold that?
That's I would say so. Okay, so in an ideal world, I would get rid of like 80% of majors, like they would just be gone. I'd also make college harder to get into, with likely some type of prerequisites, so you get through. But I'd also get rid of a lot of BS classes. So I'd reduce the time you need to be there, but I'd make it harder for you to get in and reduce the cost. And I say all that to say, college in and of itself is not a bad idea. It's not a good idea. It's not a bad one. It's what you study and how you use the time to get there. Like for example, if you go and get like a freaking communications degree, um, or like English writing or something like that, or even business now these days. Like there's just so much you can learn on the internet and then go do. Because when people treat college as, I watched the Peter Thiel uh, talk about this, and people treat college like an insurance product. But it's not quite that. Like you can't go to college and then be guaranteed a job. Those days are over. They've been over for a long time too. But people still have that conditioning. They still think that's how you go to college and that's what you do, okay, for a job. And then they come out disappointed that they're, in $40,000, $50,000 of debt minimum, but they can't pay it off. They can't get a job worth it. Well, that's because the degree has nothing to do. All the degree is a signaling tool. If you want to put together a signaling tool now these days, you can put together a portfolio, you can write a blog. I was talking to my girlfriend and I said, if our kid wanted to go to college and study English, I'd be like, okay, well, I need you to write and self-publish a book first. Like, I need you to understand the business aspect, how money is generated before you go and study academia purely for academia's sake, and it costs you so much money to do so, or rather cost us so much money to do so. So that's yeah, I mean, if they want to study some legitimately technical stuff, I would prefer my doctor has more schooling. Here's the thing about doctors having so much school, that's to weed people out who don't really want to be doctors. That to me, it's about right. You're going to be, from the time you graduate from high school to your first patient, it's going to be about 12 years. That's over a decade. That's going to weed out anybody who's really, and it's competitive. It's going to weed out anyone who's not interested. So we end up with doctors who do care, who tend to be good at what they do, right? Uh, so we need that kind of stringency. We still need people to build stuff. We just need people. We still need to make advances as a society, and the university system typically was the place to do that. Nowadays, not so much.
Hmm. So, youngsters listening to this podcast, if you really want to take up something, you want to study advanced studies, and then yes, college is recommended. Or if you want to do something else, and maybe there is a different route for you. It's not that the life has stopped for you, it's just that there is a different route for you, right, Ed?
Right. And it. A lot of people see people who go, okay, now you need to go to trade schools and community college. They miss the point, right? Yes, that's telling people where jobs are. What I would like to see is more people who are in general self-sufficient mentally, because when you've developed a mental self-sufficiency, you're able to select a path and understand how to use that path, not become hitched to it. I think right now, a lot of people become hitched to paths, and then they don't know how to pivot. They don't know how to change, and then they're always looking for something else to hitch themselves to. Meanwhile, people like me, we put together skills, and then we go, how can we do something with those skills that best suits the life we're trying to live? It's very different, subtle, but key difference.
You mentioned about that people get hitched to the past. I want to take out a moment here and talk about again your housing projects. When you moved out of the housing projects, did the dynamics of life completely change, or I mean, was your past in some way like disturbing you, or you keep remembering it and then How did it go? I mean,
What do you mean exactly? Like the memories or perhaps habits?
yeah, altogether, like memories, habits, or I mean, because when we have tough times, so although those tough times make us strong, but when we slightly move towards a better life, we either can be grateful for the past that we have, or we keep resenting over the past.
It's very difficult, in my opinion. It's very difficult to learn from your past if you are resentful towards it. You can react to your past easily, and not do this because it didn't work, not do that. But do you take the time to understand why? Do you know how you change, how the thing changed, how fundamental changes have occurred? How do you understand that? Okay, the only way you can reach that understanding is by being able to look at what you've gone through and be able to look at what you've gone through, preferably with eyes unclouded by hate, resentment. When you can do that, then you can really make progress in your life. Prior to that, it's going to be very difficult,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what happened. That not kind of. I mean, that's exactly what happened. I mean, at some point, I had to figure out how to make peace with quite a bit. For me, one of the tools I used was writing. Um, but you also have to go in there and do the work. Some people use therapy. Some people use what I've used and discussed here. The whole idea, or maybe not here, but I've discussed on my website. The idea of forgiveness and the deep work that involves that. But you have to be able to look at your past and be able to look at it without feeling suffered by it or suffocated by it, feeling haunted by it, feeling resentful towards it. You have to be able to really pick these things up and and move forward with them because it's still formed you. It's still good or bad. You sitting right here. You're the product of all those experiences, so you need to be able to look at them and take something from
So, speaking of your past, you were addicted to
them.
alcohol in the past, and I believe that a lot of teenagers look up to alcohol drinking as in, this is something cool that they should do. So, how come this stupid ideology, I mean, was set into the society that, okay, if you're not drinking, you're not cool, man, I'm not going to hang out with you.
Um, you know, that's actually a great question. I should like write about that. That's really interesting. Um, I don't I don't know. Okay. What I do know is that at this point, it has taken on a life of its own. It is now a self-sustaining ritual that I think captures so many people every year who had a bright or who had sorry who had potential one way and now they don't have it, and they don't have it because they they decided to go and pull all nighters, 3 4 times a week, drinking, going out to party, trying to fit in. It really exacerbates a lot of negative characteristics and traits and mutes some of the things that makes you unique and interesting. And young people in particular, I mean, are highly susceptible. You have to remember something, and this continues to blow my mind. Our brains do not finish developing and forming until we're about 25. That's fairly it's a significant piece of information, and it's not like an unimportant part. This finishing up, like it's your ability to make decisions effectively, to look at the pros and cons of a thing, and go, well, okay, well, this is no good, this is good. So I look at that, and I wish that when I go to Europe, this is a good example because it's uniquely American, I think. And I don't think that the drinking culture is the way it is over there. They have a different relationship, and I've been trying to figure out what the difference is and I still don't know. I think Americans just in general consume a lot of things, and whatever they decide to consume, that's going to be the thing of the week. I'm sure it's no coincidence we're the drunkest, fattest nation on the planet, right? Because here's food, here's alcohol, right?
Right. So it's been 7 years since you quit alcohol. So, how do you think your life has transformed after you quit alcohol? And what advice would you give to the young listeners of this podcast?
You know, first, I just every single area of my life is better than it was prior to drinking. I'm healthier, I'm fitter, I'm always aware. I don't have to worry about wasting time. People respect me. I have more money. Like there's no drawback, and it really helps that I think I'm naturally kind of extroverted. I talk to people without a problem, so I don't need the courage. I don't feel inhibited without it. Okay, to the point where actually one of my issues, man, I was probably a little over the top when I drank because I'm so like that naturally. Um, any young person looking to give it up to stop, I would just say, you will never ever. Here's what you'll never regret. You'll never regret waking up without a hangover. Like you'll never be like, man, I wish I had drank last night. Like that. I've never had that thought. I've had tons of thoughts the opposite, where I was like, man, I wish I had not drank last night. Okay, so that's the way you have to look at your life. You have to decide that this is important, and this is more important than that. And once you can make the connection that this is wasting time, the alcohol, and it's taken away from what you want to be, what you want to do, it's an easy choice. In fact, it's only hard when you don't have anything to chase or live for. But once you have things to go for and live for, it's too easy to not even touch it, not even pick it up.
Hmm. So, advice to the young listeners is that you're not going to regret waking up without a hangover. So, don't drink it for no reason. Um, I want to now talk about the book that Ed wrote. So he wrote a book on sobriety, and the name of the book is "Sober Letters to My Drunken Self," and you can get it on Amazon. And if you find yourself caught in that situation and you need help, you might want to check out that book. Moving further, I remember in one of your talks on 21 Studios, you said, and I quote, "Security is unbelievably seductive, and it's way more inviting than freedom, and freedom is what the red pill gives us." So no wonder you're the real life Morpheus. So I think we should talk a little bit about what does the ideology of red pill means to you, this
Uh,
entire philosophy.
that's interesting. I suppose if I was to make it a whole philosophy, it's just about seeing and understanding the truth. And I put the truth in quotes because while there are things that are true in the sense that they are uh, they are the realest representation of reality. Uh, I have to say, there are truths because there are in quotes because for you to have the optimal life, there are certain things you have to embrace and understand. Now you have to remember, one of the things that why I love the Matrix. It's a great analogy because all the power they're given when they take the pill and they can fly and do crazy martial arts. It comes with a responsibility and it comes with a burden. Uh, you can't turn your back on it once you see it, once you know the truth, and you're forced to live with that burden. So, what does it mean to me? It means seeing the true nature of things. And you have to remember, generally speaking, the more secure something is, the further away from its true nature you are. You know, and people like a very basic idea that way people interact and see this is like on the internet. This is not true communication in the sense that we're face to face and talking and doing things. So if I wanted to, I could be incredibly reckless and mean, and you can't do anything about it, right? And you too, you could be like, you can call me all kinds of names. I'm gonna close the screen, right? You don't get to encounter real consequences because this is not real. This isn't true, all right? It's the same way with everything else, right? Like one of the areas we look at is in dating, right? Whole idea is you get red pill, you learn the truth about the interactions between men and women, and you use it to your advantage, you understand it. But with that comes a certain level of awareness and responsibility. You now know what will happen if you do this, and guys don't talk about this a lot. It's one thing to know how to play the system, totally different to know that once you're out of it, how that sense, how the characters interact with you, and once you do something, how you affect them. And for me, knowing the truth of how something works, how something does, it washes away all naivety about it, and you're not forced to interact with it. Uh, is its true nature? Is its true self? It's like dating. Dating is where it gets started, so that's why I keep going back to it. You know, you no longer, a lot of guys. There's this movement on the internet. These black pillars. They call them black pill guys, and they say that they're just depressed. It's just girls just want good looking guys and nothing else matters. Good looking guys with money. That's it, right? What that is that's looking at the truth of a statement of one, focusing on the negative, and two, and this is the most important part, there's no solution. There's no, okay, let's talk about how to get paid. Let's talk about how to become get in shape. No, that's it. It's just complaining. But when you take the red pill about a thing, in this case again dating, not only are you going, okay, women want XYZ, now it becomes how do I become XYZ? And it's the same thing with anything else if we extrapolate it to politics, to health, whatever. Once you know the truth of something, then if you've been properly red pilled, that necessitates you to take the corrective action. To take the correct action, I suppose, is a better way to put it.
So basically, in Ed's word, if you're taking the red pill, it means you're forming your opinions based on the real life experiences, regardless of what the society is saying to you, right?
Correct. Because what tends to happen is society by definition is designed to cater to the average person, and that will not work for above average people. But are people who are different in any way, shape, or form. The ones who stand out. And so, what you have to do once you know the score, realize that the game is not for you. You might be in the game, but as long as you stay in it, you're gonna have to play by their rules, and their rules suck. Their rules are slow. Their rules are to keep everybody at the same level, so no one loses, so no one feels bad. So you start saying like employment. To me, I can't understand not working for yourself in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I'm sure, but like at one point I did, and then I woke up and I was like, wow, I can never go back to that. I mean, I can't imagine it. But there's a freedom and a burden that comes with it. I got to make sure I have my taxes. I got to make sure I cover my health insurance. I got to make sure that I can afford to live where I live. Yeah, I got to make sure I work because I can't just. There's not a guarantee of a paycheck just because I work for somebody I'm signed. No, so all that comes with a level of responsibility, and that to me is what distinguishes just knowing the truth and understand is you have to act in accord with it. You can't know how a thing works and then behave in a way that does not allow you to maximize that thing or use that principle to your benefit or advantage. To me, that's the same as lying. You may as well not or not know it. I mean, it's like the old saying: "What's the difference between a dumb man and a dumb or a man who's stupid and a man who doesn't speak?" Right? Oh, if they don't open their mouth, who knows? Right?
Yes.
Right? It's
Right.
only when they try to say something that you're like, oh, this guy's kind of an idiot, right? You don't know that. So,
True. You took the red pill when you were 23, when your girl cheated on you. right? So what, I mean, in the past 10 years, what are the three important lessons of this entire red pill philosophy would you like to pass on to other people?
The most important thing is one, no one is coming to save you. Uh, it's just I think one of the big problems in society is that we lack a rites of passage, at least in America. So there's no real clear you're an adult now, and so kids are always in one way or another dependent on their parents, and you can never be fully autonomous. You can never feel your back against the wall and adapt when you have that safety net. So, like one of the things I get crap for sometimes as I talk about a man should move out of his house at 18. And people go, oh, other cultures don't do that, yada yada yada. I'm like, well, yeah, you might be right, but other cultures haven't invented most of the shit in the world, right? And I think one of the reasons for that, or what it's related to, is there is with when you have that grit, when you work through the toughness, when you work out the hard problems of society, that gives you a level of ingenuity that allows you to create, right? So that's the first one. No one is coming to save you, and you need to be able to like take care of yourself and realize that the people. This actually leads nicely into the next thing. Realize that like everyone has an agenda for you, and if you don't have an agenda for yourself, they're gonna make sure you follow their agenda. And I guarantee you, their agenda is not gonna have your best interest in mind. And that's really important. Uh, it, what's another way to say this? Even making no decision is a decision. Okay. And someone is going to see you make no decision in your life, and they're going to make sure that they make the decision for you. Okay. Because everyone's trying to, one of the things that we can't escape, humans are still humans. And um, however advanced we become technologically, well, we're still just apes in suits. And you need to understand, people need to understand that you it's a lot better to go into every interaction expecting this and be surprised than it is to go into every interaction expecting people to be kind and generous, and then you find out, oh man, humans suck, right? Yeah, and you're not prepared. Generally speaking, when you get surprised in a negative sense, by definition of being surprised, it does a lot more damage than if you are, at the very least, expecting. You may not be able to properly counter it, but at least you're prepared and you can form some kind of strategy to minimize the damage done by treachery. But when you're expecting everyone to be cool and good, okay, now you got a ton of problems. So make decisions in your life, and try not to be sucked up in someone else's agenda, because that agenda is never going to be in your favor. It's just not going to happen. All right. And the last thing, I mean, it was right on the tip of my tongue, and I had it. It'll come back to me real quick once I start talking about it. But human nature is always going to be human nature, right? I like to link these things. I knew if I thought about it, it would come to me. Right, human nature is going to be human nature. And I can't remember the movie. I think it was the Italian Job, maybe, where he goes, I trust the human. Maybe like I trust you. It's the person in you or something like that. I don't trust. You. I trust everyone to be a good person, and they really want to be a good person, and they'll do their best to be the best people they can be. I will not, however, gamble on that or put myself in a position to where I need to rely on people to be anything more than people. Like I said, it's always better. No one is saying go through the world thinking everybody's out to get you. Okay, that is not only counterproductive, but it's just not true. There are a lot of good people out there, but if you have a strategy based on assuming that everyone is like that, there is a lot of damage done when it turns out they're not. On the flip side, if you have a strategy that assumes that everyone is probably a little shady until proven otherwise, um, then worst case scenario, you were right, but you were ready for it. Okay, but you don't play anything too close to the chest, as we say. Keep arms length. You don't do anything stupid like pick up hitchhikers. I know people that do that. I'm like, nope, let them walk. They'll figure out how to get there eventually. Um, but little things like that. And I think that if you do that, you can navigate this world, and you can do it in a way that is maximizes enjoyment. I think. Like I don't walk around with a negative feeling. I don't have a chip on my shoulder about anything. Um, it's hard to get something over on me, and even if you do, I'm at a point where I'm like, oh, okay, well that sucks, and now I know better, and just move on from it.
Hmm. Right. So to sum up, no one's coming to save you. Save yourself. Number one. Number two is making no decision is also making a decision. So make decisions yourself until someone else takes decision for you. And third is experience life as it comes and maximize the enjoyment and have a belief that people suck in general. So you will not be taken by surprise if you come across shitty people. But yeah, there are definitely good people. So don't just be, this negative person who's going out and, okay, just finding out the, the mean things in the person or the bad things about the person. Also think about the good things, right?
Yes.
So when you retired from boxing, you had so many career options: fitness, trainer, nutritionist, or I mean, a coach. You could have chosen anything, but you chose writing over all these options. Why? When did you develop the interest in writing? And I mean, what advice would you give to the budding writers who want to write or who want to create an impact through their writing? As in, how can they get better in their writing?
Oh goodness. So like why I chose this path? I mean, I've always wanted to write. I've been writing throughout my boxing career and growing my website and everything. And it was just always something I wanted to do. It just there was no way I was not going to write. Like I couldn't imagine that world. Okay. As far as advice I would give to anyone who wants to make this a way to eat, a way to make a living, man, this is probably the hard. Like people don't understand. You need to learn business sense if you're going to uh, be in this. Like it's just not. It's just not easy. And really the hardest part is it just takes time. Um, like I was fortunate, I was doing most of my writing and building up my website uh, while I was in the middle of fighting, so it was no rush. And then because of my fighting career, I got exposure there and some other stuff. I mean, you got to build a platform. I think that's the most challenging part. And building a platform is not easy. Building a platform is what's the best way to build a platform? Okay, describe it. You effectively have to describe it. You have to be a nothing. You're nothing. You're one person in a sea of 7 billion, and you have to give them a reason to care, which means you have to do something that catches at least a sizable minority's attention. Okay, and you have to do it repeatedly over a long amount of time. And if you do that, more people will care and they tend to follow you. After that point, now you've got a platform. But what I just described tends to take. I mean, one of the cool things about Twitter, for better or worse, and I'm inclined to think better, is that it allows people to very quickly build a platform. Right? Websites take a lot longer, uh, but they are more resilient. If Twitter shuts down, I still have my website, and my website's done great for me. So there's that. All right. So I would say that if you want to write, make sure, and be prepared to be prolific. pretty much the less known you are for something, the more you gotta write. And if you don't have a blog, I don't know what you're doing. You need a blog, you need a social media, you need every way possible to display your work. Because if you don't do that, then how does anyone know about you? And if no one knows about you, how are you going to make a living writing? And if you don't make a living writing, you're not going to do it for very long. I found that people who really enjoy the craft of trying to put words together and really get better at it, because I don't think I'm that good, but I do think I love putting words together and learning a better way to say things. Um, the people who do that, yeah, they tend to have a great life. Uh, but it takes a long time to build a great life. It's about, say 10 years. Like if I kept moving at the pace I'm moving 10 years, but my book sales alone, yeah, I'd probably make about $100,000 a year. It just I had no other books. Now I plan on writing at least. Well, I plan on writing to the day I die. I can do it forever. Putting together articles on my site and putting together courses and things like that. And because I enjoy teaching too, it's really good that those two skills came together in me in this day and age because because now it's very lucrative if you can do that.
Hmm. So I think this will be my last question for this podcast. What is your philosophy of betterment in life, and why do you think it's important to, the idea of growth? It's just so amazing. How keeping a track of your personal growth has helped you become a better person, or do great things in life, say for that matter.
So we're born and we get like 70, 80 years, and then boom, that's it. Good luck, peace out, game over. In the meantime, it'd be cool if you could do something interesting with that time. And the only way you can do interesting things with that time is you have to grow and develop. And growing and developing for growing and developing's sake is still good because it gives you more power. It gives you more choices. It allows you to see more of the world. It allows you to never feel like you have settled. And more importantly, and I think most importantly, you get to build a sense of meaning because you are trying to do a thing, right? When you try to do something and you succeed or don't succeed, you get better regardless. Okay, and I think everyone's got to find something that makes them want to improve. I mean, we have our baselines, our fitness, intelligence, etc. But what about the other things in your life um, that require more of a general approach? And I just think that if you're going to spend your time on this planet not trying to get better in some way, it's a shallow existence. I can't imagine it. I like to think, okay, I'm running better, or I'm stronger, or I'm smarter. I've made some moves. I've grown as a writer. I've got a body where I got more bodies of work out there. You know, different things that make my time on this planet great. It's a fun time.
All right. This brings us to the end of the podcast. What is the last lesson that you would like to say to the ones who are listening to the podcast?
Given enough time, you can learn anything. That's the most powerful idea I carry with myself, and I try to teach everyone. Given enough time, you can learn anything.
Great. Thank you so much, Ed. I personally have learned so much in this entire session, and I certainly hope to gain a little wisdom that you've tried to pass on. And I mean, I really like the fact that you were genuine and humble throughout this. That's it, I think. So, guys, go and follow Ed on Twitter. Check out his website, edlatimore.com. He is a self improvement enthusiast. So, you will learn a lot from his tweets, from his website. So, go and check it out right now. Thank you so much, Ed.
Hey, no problem. I'm happy that we can make it happen.